Coming up on Mountain News this morning, the Department of Justice has opened an investigation into Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. And President Trump says he's weighing possible military strikes and other options against Iran.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning. I'm Caroline Mueller here with you on this Monday, January 12th. The time is now 6 a.m. Let's check in with meteorologist Megan Desmel for a look at your forecast this morning. Megan, today was the first day in probably a week or so that I've had to sit in the car and wait for that windshield to defrost, and it was not a good time.
Yeah, it was not a good time. I was 15 minutes late to work this morning just because I could not drive with how cold it was. And it's only gotten colder since I left the house, so I can only imagine what it feels like outside with these teens and 20s. Here's a look at what you can expect. Colder as you travel more towards the south, a mixture of between 15 to 19 degrees with our northern counties, and a mixture between 21 to 28 degrees. And it's going to warm up, thankfully, as we head towards the afternoon with a mixture of the 40s in the forecast, with thankfully plenty of sunshine to help warm us up as we're heading into those afternoon hours. Here's a look at that satellite radar this morning. A little bit of clouds still hanging on for West Virginia counties. Altogether, though, not a bad forecast. And throughout the rest of the day, really, we're just going to see ourselves warming up until about 3 to 4 p.m. Caroline.
Megan, thank you. The Department of Justice has opened an investigation into the Federal Reserve's renovation of its D.C. headquarters. Federal prosecutors also are investigating Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. Prosecutors allege Powell lied to Congress when he testified before the Senate Banking Committee last June about the cost of the renovations. The price tag on the renovations is about $2.5 billion. On Sunday, Powell pushed back against accusations the project was mismanaged. The FBI and local authorities in Mississippi are investigating as a possible hate crime. A suspect is in custody after the oldest synagogue in the state and only synagogue in the city of Jackson was attacked. Authorities say the house of worship was intentionally targeted in the early hours of Saturday morning. No members of the synagogue were injured in the blaze, but according to the Anti-Defamation League, multiple Torahs were destroyed, along with the synagogue's library and administrative offices.
Attack against the synagogue is an attack against all of us. We know that the investigators are diligently working to make a determination.
The FBI has a suspect in custody, and Jackson's chief of fire investigations says that person sustained non-life-threatening burns. They have not released his identity. A line of people gathered outside the federal courthouse waiting for a seat at Luigi Manion's high-stakes hearing. The 27-year-old is charged in the fatal shooting of a healthcare executive a year ago in an ambush on a New York sidewalk. His legal team is fighting to block the government from seeking the death penalty. Their argument centers on the charge that Manion used a firearm in the commission of a violent crime. They say the charge is flawed and should be dismissed.
What the federal government has done is they've charged Manion with stalking, and they've said that is the crime of violence. And the defense is saying stalking is not necessarily a crime of violence. It is a crime, but it's not the kind of violent crime that would underlie the death penalty.
Manion's lawyers also argue authorities prejudiced the case by turning his arrest into a spectacle after a 5-day manhunt. Friday's hearing only concerned the federal case against Manion, but there is a state murder case as well. He's pleaded not guilty to all charges. The defense is also seeking to block the government from using items found in Manion's backpack as evidence, arguing police searched him without a warrant. President Trump says he's weighing possible military strikes and other options against Iran days after he warned that the U.S. would get involved if Iran killed anti-government protesters. U.S. activists say more than 500 protesters have been killed in the violence surrounding the demonstrations. An Iranian lawmaker has threatened to retaliate against U.S. military assets in the region if the U.S. strikes.
Iran wants to negotiate. A meeting is being set up, but we may have to act because of what's happening before the meeting. If they do that, we will hit them at levels that they've never been hit before.
This all comes as diplomatic sources say U.S. and Danish officials are expected to meet Wednesday to discuss President Trump's push to acquire Greenland from Denmark. The Smithsonian has removed details about President Donald Trump's impeachments from an exhibit at the National Portrait Gallery in Washington, D.C. The label under the new portrait notes the president's birth date and that he is the 45th and 47th president. The previous label had more details. The Smithsonian has faced pressure from the White House to comply with the wide-ranging review and for the museum to adhere to the administration's push to stamp out what it considers anti-American propaganda. New Labor Department data show the U.S. entered 2026 still recovering from a major economic slowdown. Some experts say job growth stalled in 2025, even as the president maintains the economy is strong. WYMT's Washington correspondent Stephen Goyne breaks down the latest jobs report.
With that December jobs report, we now have a full picture of 2025, and the data shows last year had the weakest annual jobs growth in decades. The U.S. economy added 50,000 jobs in December, according to that latest jobs report, while unemployment was down slightly at 4.4% compared to a revised 4.5% from last month. With those new numbers, we now know the U.S. economy only added 584,000 jobs in 2025. In fact, the data shows last year saw the weakest annual jobs growth since 2003. That excludes outlier data from 2020 and 2021, when millions of jobs were lost due to the COVID-19 pandemic. For the year, the healthcare industry and social assistance were the biggest drivers of job growth. In a statement, the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, putting the blame on the Trump administration for slow growth, their chief economist says, quote, "This labor market is frozen with very little hiring as businesses cannot make long-term plans in an uncertain environment." So overall, a tough year for job seekers. In 2025, the number of people looking for a job but not finding one up by 397,000. In Washington, I'm Stephen Gowen.
Thursday, the U.S. House passed a bill that would extend healthcare enhanced subsidies for 3 years. Those subsidies had expired at the end of 2025. A total of 17 Republicans joined Democrats in passing the measure, which was brought to the House floor as a result of a discharge petition. The House vote was mostly symbolic, but gets members on record. Kentucky Congressman Thomas Massie did not vote to extend the subsidies, saying his fellow Republicans have lost touch with their party's values.
Look, when I got here, we were supposed to repeal Obamacare, and it was called the Affordable Care Act, and here we are, 14 years later, still bailing it out. I think Republicans have given up on this promise to our electorate, and I think that's wrong.
The measure is not expected to advance in the Senate. A small group of centrists in both chambers have been working on a subsidies measure that they believe could get the votes needed to reach President Donald Trump's desk. Millions of Americans have defaulted on their student loans, and now the government may take a part of their paychecks. As of September, more than 45 million Americans held outstanding student loans totaling $1.67 trillion. This week, the Department of Education is sending out notices that could impact millions who've defaulted.
What the government is doing is they're saying, hey, you owe us a bunch of money. We're going to take some money back from you. How? We are going to garnish your wages.
That could be up to 15% of someone's paycheck or even cost student loan borrowers part of their tax return. For older Americans, the government could take a piece of their Social Security payments. Experts suggest contacting your student loan provider to find a repayment option that works for you. General Motors says it will lose another $6 billion as a result of its decision to pull back on electric cars. This on top of a $1.6 billion charge to disclosed in October for changes to its EV plans. GM and other automakers invested heavily in EV plans in anticipation of stringent environmental regulations put in place during the Biden administration.
And we're looking at clear skies as you're starting off your morning with just a little bit of clouds as you're heading towards West Virginia. Now, what that means for you is we've had a lot of that heat escape and temperatures are very chilly this morning. You'll notice where those clouds are, it's a little bit warmer as the temperatures haven't been able to drop as much. Still though, mixture of the teens and 20s, so it is very cold this morning. And as we head throughout the day, thankfully we'll warm up just a little bit and we'll have plenty of sunshine to help make those temperatures feel better. Highs will be in a mixture of the low to mid 40s, happening around that 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock time frame. Caroline.
Thank you, Megan, and thank you for getting your day started with us here on Mountain News this morning. Still to come, health professionals say social isolation and loneliness is a growing problem throughout the country.